For our first story, we have I, female 32, just found out my husband, male 33, has been having a FD up affair? Dynamic? Whatever it is, it's cheating, with the mum of our child's best friend. How do I stay calm before going nuclear? Can't quite believe I'm writing this, and apologies if some of this is too much for here. Right now I couldn't face telling any of my friends, and need help navigating the next 48 hours before I go absolutely apeshit. We moved here to be close to a good school for our child. We're in a nice estate with the school being a few minutes walk. Our daughter is 5 and mostly my husband does the school runs and clubs. My work makes this hard for me to do. He works from home 100% of the time. Our daughter's best friend also stays along the road, so mornings and home times they walk together. They also do a few clubs together. We sometimes meet up at soft plays etc. at weekends, so both my husband and I have the mother's number. She's very pretty, and initially I thought she was quite intimidating, but me and her actually get along really well and we text often. Thought I had made a genuine friend in her. My husband texts her frequently as well, but he's never given me a reason to snoop. She's also married, but her husband is in the army and is gone for very long periods of time. I can count on one hand the amount of times I've actually seen him home in the almost 3 years we've lived here. Just the beginning of this week the doorbell app went off, and as I know my husband's home I never really look at the notifications, but I accidentally opened the app instead of swiping the notification away. The app opened and I see him and her leaving our house, which I thought was odd. Next day I pay more attention to this and noticed about 30 minutes before school's due to finish she just walks up and opens our door. I called him just saying I was bored, and what was he up to? He said just trying to quickly finish work so he can do the school run. I had a horrible feeling from here. That night I plugged in this little camera we had for the dog when he was a puppy that you can pan across the room. Yesterday, like clockwork, she appears again, just walks right in. I quickly opened the camera app to see this woman forcibly push him onto the stairs, stand on the stair up above him, pull her trousers down and literally rub her ass up and down his face. I wish I was kidding. He clearly wasn't fully forced to do this. He was defiantly enthusiastic about the whole thing. But she very much took charge. This was literally all that happened. I went to my car to watch, and for a solid 20 to 25 minutes all she did was make him lick her ass. They then composed themselves and left for school like nothing happened. I've never broken down like that in my life. When I got home I told him I was feeling ill and just going to bed. Skipped dinner. Just lay in bed going through every emotion. He eventually came to bed and I waited until he was asleep, grabbed his phone, and spent hours going through it. The upshot is, there's some sort of dom-sub dynamic going on. And it's literally just what I saw them doing. There's not been any PIV sex. He's not allowed to touch anywhere else, strictly her ass. It's been happening most days at least once for months. She texts him telling him she's on her way and he better be ready. I have however seen texts from her saying he will get to fuck her, but that's what he's working toward. What the fuck? How on earth do you start something like that so quickly with someone who has been getting increasingly involved in our lives, through our kids no less? My mind's blown. I am so hurt, angry, embarrassed, disgusted with him and her. Like, what do I actually do here? I can't stay with him, but now I need to move away from this area, uproot everything, move schools, just because these two want to live some weird fantasy? I've just watched her turn up to the house again today. I started to watch the camera in the house, but had to turn it off. I am so fucking angry. I am going home to do the same as I did yesterday, and I plan on going nuclear on him tomorrow night or Saturday. That way there's time to plan something for school on Monday. My mind just now is saying we're done. There's no coming back from this. But what steps can I be taking to ensure I come out better off in this situation? I have a few photos of messages, plan to take lots more tonight. I am trying to work out how to leave the camera recording tomorrow, but I am clueless. I don't even know if it has that function. We're in the UK, so if anyone knows the best steps I can take from here I would greatly appreciate the advice. That's the end of our first post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, "You're thinking clearly despite how insane this is. There's no coming back from it, so focus on protecting yourself. Gather enough proof to cover yourself, but don't drive yourself crazy with details. Stay calm, plan your next steps, leave that guy. Our second commenter says, get a lawyer and follow their advice. I would personally hold off on telling him you know anything until you and your solicitor decide exactly what you want. Then get him to agree to it on paper while he's still in shock. Our third commenter says, if you have an iPhone, start screen recording the act as you're watching it live from the app on your phone, if you can't figure out the camera's record function. For our second story, we have 49 male. Why would married man jokingly do this to a married woman? 47F. My wife of almost 25 years works in a public elementary school. We are both in our late 40s and we have 2 grown children in college. A week before Valentine's Day I happened to look through my wife's bag. This is something I've never done before. And I found an envelope with a post-it note and a handwritten message. Be my Valentine, inside a hand-drawn heart. Inside the envelope are $2 150 Broadway show tickets and another post-it note that said, please. When I looked at the details of the tickets I saw a name of my wife's only male colleague as the ticket purchaser. My wife had told me earlier she was going to hang out with a group of coworkers a week after Valentine's Day, but she didn't tell me any details. On Valentine's Day I sent a bouquet of flowers to her at school, and upon receiving them she sent me a text asking, did you send me flowers? To which I replied, is that even a question you need to ask your husband? I went on to tell her I probably saw something in her bag that I should have seen, and upon realizing I was probably talking about the 2 Broadway show tickets, she explained she will be watching the show with her coworkers. When I asked her about the handwritten note, she said the male coworker likes to joke around a lot and he probably sent a note like that to everyone. When I asked why she had 2 tickets, she said it was because the other ticket is for a female coworker that she will be picking up before the show. I told her I was not comfortable about the messages on the post-it notes, and I also told her I know her well enough to believe she won't do anything stupid, which I truly believe. I also told her I don't know any married men who would jokingly ask a married woman to be his Valentine. So my question is, are there any men here who can give me a different perspective and motive for doing something like this? In my view, there's only one reason for a man to do that. And by the way, my wife is a good-looking woman in good physical shape and she looks like someone in her 30s. Thank you all for your comments. I don't disagree with what you've all posted, but I am also trying to be positive about this. Since she did skip the show and went on a trip with relatives instead, this week is winter recess. I will be discussing this in detail. Her tomorrow. I drove for 3 hours to spend the last night them and to drive back her tomorrow. By the way, I won't be going through her phone or confronting her coworkers because it will only make things worse. It's an issue between my wife and I, and we will work to resolve it one way or another while investigating them or sharing this. His wife may seem like a good tactic. I don't want to be the person to cause any problems in his family. They can deal with their own problems without me. That's the end of our second post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, greater than when I looked at the details of the tickets I saw a name of my wife's only male colleague as the ticket purchaser. Greater than when I asked why she had 2 tickets, she said it was because the other ticket is for a female coworker that she will be picking up before the show. He bought tickets for her and her friend? Does that make sense to you? She canceled on him because you basically found out. Going with him is too risky at the moment. Share the joke with that guy's wife. She'll get to the bottom of it for sure. Our second commenter says, going to be hard to explain this one. Definitely not common to buy expensive tickets for a coworker you're not fucking. Our third commenter says, you are a married man, you can answer your own question. Would you send a silly goofy post-it note to another woman, whether she's married or not? I suppose you know other married men too. Under what circumstances would any of them do such a thing? My bigger concern is that your wife hadn't mentioned the tickets to you in a week. And there's this perfect excuse of a female coworker tagging along with her. I wouldn't even be suspicious if she came up to me and told me herself that her and the male coworker were going to this play together. It's the secrecy that's indicative of something else, and you already know it. For our last story, we have, I think that my 25 male wife, 23 female, thinks that I murdered her ex. About a month ago, while out shopping, my wife and I ran into her high school boyfriend and his mom on the street. It was a slightly awkward encounter. His mom made a comment about how good they looked standing next to each other, like it was meant to be. We said we were in a bit of a hurry, and as we were walking away he said something along the lines of, hey, we should grab coffee sometime. I didn't think too much of it at the moment. Sure, his mom was awkward, but they'd been broken up for about 7 years and I do think he meant it to just be friendly. But still, we had a quick check-in after where we both agreed it was awkward, and that I wasn't too upset, and that I wouldn't even necessarily mind them meeting for coffee provided that if it became clear he still had feelings or was making advances she'd cut him out. She wasn't even sure she'd want to take him up on it, so it was purely hypothetical. That evening I met up with some friends for drinks and was home at 1 a.m. The next morning my wife got message from her friend that her ex died that night. We got a few more details over the next couple days, but it seemed he suffered from epilepsy and that night in freak accident had a seizure, fell and fatally hit his head. A fake there's no foul play suspected or criminal investigation or anything like that. In the weeks since she started acting really strange. She hasn't been abnormally sad that he died, but more like cautious and fearful around me. She hasn't made any kind of direct accusation, but had been asking me a lot of questions about where I went drinking with my friends, who I was with, what time each person arrived and left, etc. She's lately mentioned that she wanted to spend some time with a friend, to catch up for about a week. I don't know how to address this. It feels crazy to have to ask her whether she thinks I murdered him, or to have to tell her that I didn't. I'm afraid to even bring it up, and whether that would just feed into whatever she seems to be going through. Any thoughts on how to deal with this? For the record, I didn't murder her ex. Edit. Thanks for the feedback. Just wanted to throw up a quick update. I am going to ask her when I get home from work. I always knew it needed to be a conversation, just needed to hype myself up to actually do it, and figure out how I wanted to approach it. We'll let you know how it goes. That's the end of our last post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, "You don't need to ask her that. You need to ask her why her demeanor towards you has changed. Communicate." Our second commenter says, "What if she was the one who did it and it's acting cautious and weird because of it? Think about it, it all makes sense." Our third commenter says, "I will try to communicate this with her and with someone who she trusts, like her mom or best friend. Tell her that you are worried because you noted her different since the death of her ex and try to ask for her feelings and what has happened in her head since." That's all for today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.